differently. They're causing economic damage to tons of the world's natural gas. And well, happy Friday to you, because it's not going good for the U.S. in its war against Iran. What you see here on your screen, one of several tankers that have been hit in the Strait of Hormuz, which transits 25% of the world's oil and tons of the world's natural gas. And you have to understand, this is Iran effectuating its strategy of causing economic damage and making it so painful that we have to stop. Their neighborhood, the Persian Gulf, is like a chandelier of the most expensive, fragile, and impactful targets on the entire planet. Oil terminals, hotels, resort cities, tank farms, you name it. And this shows right here, 34% jump in the cost of oil in 1 week. That is the greatest jump in a week that we've had since 1982. And look what Qatar says is about to happen. Literally, one of our allies is claiming that if this war goes on for even a few weeks, it could, quote, bring down the economies of the entire world. You're talking about natural gas prices going up 400%. You're talking about production being shut off within a matter of days. This is a huge problem, and we clearly didn't plan for it because we don't have the ships in the Strait of Hormuz right now in place to escort people along. And even if we could, look at Operation Earnest Will. In the past, it's been incredibly difficult. I don't know if we can even get that mission accomplished. So here we are. Iran's effectuating a strategy. They are far from done, and you need to measure this conflict differently. They're causing economic damage, knowing they can survive behind 14,000-foot mountains, and they're not going to get invaded. Watch out. Well, happy Friday to you, because it's not going good for the U.S. and
States and Israel.
Consider
Iran War 6. Here's the latest news.
This is your World War.
Trump fired dozens of senior career diplomats. Several strategic posts in the Middle East have been vacant for over a year. He fired more than 13 Iranians hit Azerbaijan's international airport. There's a reason why this war with Iran feels so confusing. So let me cut right through it. My name's Adam. I used to be in the CIA, and we've been doing daily updates on the war. Today, I'll give you the facts from the last 24 hours, but then I'm going to give you the tools to understand strategically why this war is spinning out of control. So here's what you need to know. Last night, the Iranians hit Azerbaijan's international airport. More explosions reported in Abu Dhabi. The UAE continues to be the hardest hit in the region. There's footage claiming to show Iranian ballistic missiles over Jordan. Iran hit the primary oil refinery in Bahrain, which is still on fire, and a missile struck near a U.S. naval installation. A U.S. Navy sub sank an Iranian warship off the coast of Sri Lanka. And finally, U.S. CENTCOM is requesting support for another 100 days of Iran operations. So that's what happened. Now here's why it matters. This is no longer a contained operation between Israel, the U.S., and Iran. This is now a regional conflict involving 17 countries, and those in charge of American strategic policy are fundamentally unequipped to handle it. They've also spent the last 15 months undermining our diplomatic readiness and our relationships with global allies, both of which are necessary to prosecute this kind of war. Consider, Trump fired dozens of senior career diplomats. Several strategic posts in the Middle East have been vacant for over a year. He fired more than 1,300 State Department employees, many of whom were Middle East and counterterrorism experts. They dismantled USAID, an agency that should be playing a critical role in navigating the conflict and post-conflict environments. Kash Patel also fired a dozen agents and staff from the FBI's counterintelligence unit specifically tasked with monitoring threats from Iran. I know firsthand that Iran has a very capable intel service that has networks and cells that should be playing a critical role in navigating the conflict and post-conflict environments. Kash Patel also fired a dozen agents and staff from the FBI's counterintelligence unit specifically tasked with monitoring threats from Iran. I know firsthand that Iran has a very capable intel service that has networks and cells all over the world. We haven't even seen those networks activated yet, but terrorism, sabotage, assassination, it's all on the table. Dozen agents and staff from the FBI's counterintelligence unit specifically tasked with monitoring threats from Iran. I know firsthand that Iran has a very capable intel service that has networks and cells all over the world. We haven't even seen those networks activated yet, but terrorism, sabotage, assassination, it's all on the table. When we stack all of this together, a bigger picture emerges. A picture of incompetence, lack of planning, and an inability to understand, even intellectually, the scale of the crisis they've created. That's why this conflict is spinning out of control, and this is where our alliances will be critical. Right now, the European allies are hesitantly supporting us. The French sent fighter jets, the Dutch sent warships, even the Ukrainians, they're sending drone teams. All of this despite repeated disrespect from the Trump administration over the last year. Because even if our leaders don't understand it, our allies do. They recognize this moment is critical, and they are attempting to protect, stabilize, and de-escalate. On the other hand, Trump, Hegseth, Rubio, Noam, Patel, all of them, they failed in their duty to act in the best interest of the American people. In only 5 short days, they unilaterally committed us to a massive regional war. This dwarfs Iraq or Afghanistan in complexity and in scale. And when we look at who's in command, who's making decisions, and who's working with our allies, We see a team of Fox News hosts, podcasters, Nepo babies, billionaires, and Mar-a-Lago influencers. And in charge of all of them, at the head of the table, is a calloused and diminished president who spent more time with Jeffrey Epstein than he did planning for war with Iran. There's a reason why this.
As the fan connects the world's largest natural gas field to international markets. Qatar was forced to shut this port on Monday following a drone attack by Iran. It now warns that all exports of energy from across the Gulf will cease within days unless the war ends. Qatar's wealth is built on natural gas, but gas and oil are the lifeblood of almost every economy.
The crisis continues this way. The Asian buyers and the European buyers will need to compete for the LNG, which will get scarce and scarce.
In the past week, the market price of oil has surged above $90 a barrel, and natural gas has almost doubled to 135 pence a therm. Now, both are still well below the extreme levels we saw 4 years ago after Russia invaded Ukraine, but the ripple effects are already being felt. Petrol has risen by about 4 pence a litre at the pumps in the last week, while diesel has hit its highest level in 16 months. Also, in the last few days, banks and building societies have been raising their mortgage rates, a sign markets think inflation may rise again and interest rates will stay higher for longer. Now, over the past 2 years, 6 interest rate cuts brought borrowing costs gradually down, but mortgage deals are now edging up again. The war has effectively choked the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most important shipping lanes for oil and gas, which lies between Iran and the United Arab Emirates. The latest satellite data suggests only the occasional tanker is now willing to risk passage.
The world can simply not cope with such a long period of extended shortages. The Strait of Hormuz, if it remains closed for 2 weeks or longer, will cause oil prices to reach levels they have never seen before.
The price of jet fuel has also surged. Airlines have bought supplies months in advance, but at some point the costs will be passed on. President Trump demands unconditional surrender in a war that's driving energy prices higher. America is gas and oil rich, but even there the impact will be felt eventually.
The book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 15, verse 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. Are we not seeing this? And it's going to escalate to where even America's allies is going to say, fuck this. Because how can you try to help de-escalate an issue that America is clearly escalating? It's clearly going to escalate. Iran is not backing down, and America is not backing down either. So, hey, we're at the beginning of World War III, the third woe, and it's going to get a lot worse. And for you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you still going to them churches, listening to Pastor Porkchop preaching to you about prosperity, then you're a fool. All analysts, all economists can obviously see that bad times are here. Why can't they? And it says, for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. So we're about to see 2nd Ezra 15 in full effect. Because without gas, there's no food. Why? Because trucks need to export the remaining food that's coming in from their respective ports. Okay, from their respective ports. And that's expensive for what, for what's left. And that cost is passed on to the consumer, which the consumer is out of work, so nobody can afford it, which means what? It's the haves versus the have-nots. And I don't know if I said it, Salakia for that. All praise, honor, and glory goes to Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Rakah Kodash, for allowing me to do another lesson. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone for being faithful witnesses to the Holy Spirit. And salutations to the elect whom the Lord have given ears to hear. Yahweh, meaning God, who the world ignorantly calls God. Yahweh Shai is his son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. And there's no God beside them. Okay? And yeah, you know, this is just a quick in the news, so to speak. You know, yeah. There was a lot that has been said, and there's a lot of information out there. All right? Some being propaganda, but this is where the prophets come in to tell you what's what. Right? And the common understanding of what we say, what we've always been saying, all right, is arise and wake up. All right? We are in the last days. What we're saying is not being prolonged anymore. It's literally happening. You know, from day to day. Hey, we in Friday. This is Friday, March 6th. By Monday, the 9th, you know, things could get a lot worse. Things are moving quickly. Hell, there could be a massive, I don't know, bank run. You know, come this weekend. Who knows? But as we heard from the former CIA agent, he said, you know, there's not really much intel on you know, who's who as far as these Iranian sleeper cells, right? So once they get that call, it's game on around the world, that is too. You know, now something's going to happen to where the system is affected monetarily and they have to push that MOTB. But guess what? We're going to sit back and keep watching like our Lord Yahweh Shai told us to do. And guess what? That's all we do. All right? Yahweh Shai told us to watch and pray. That's it. This is not a carnal thing. This is not, which they're going to paint that to be the case. Okay? But, hey, you know, we in these times, man, the time of persecution, you know, another gear. We're entering into the Passover. So we're entering into some trying times. All right, the time of great persecution. But Lord willing, that means that we're closer, right? Because as these more prophecies happen, that means that we're closer to the great deliverance. Right? The great persecution came before the great deliverance. So if that, you know, I was going to read this, but pretty much what was said in those various videos I played you, brothers and sisters, is what's written here. And also, I don't know if you noticed, but you can just go on TikTok and type in Iran war global recession. Shalom.
This Iran war update.